Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Well Anchored Life podcast, where we share the stories of brave guests who have navigated life's toughest storms and learned how to thrive amidst hardship. I am your host, Belisha Tang. First, a quick and important note. This episode of the Well Anchored Life explores deeply personal and sometimes sensitive topics, specifically surrounding trauma, mental illness, and suicide. We want to be explicitly clear that neither the host nor the guest are licensed medical professionals or therapists. We are simply sharing our lived experiences and insights from our own personal journeys. This conversation is offered for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out immediately to a qualified professional. Listener discretion is advised. Thank you. Alrighty, guys. This week, I am thrilled to have on the podcast Chris Milson. Born and raised in Florida, Chris has transformed a life marked by hardship into a mission of healing and advocacy. After overcoming struggles with instability, abuse, and mental health challenges, Chris founded Mental Health Movement in 2019 to provide a safe space for people to share their stories. Following the passing of his brother, Santi, in 2021, he launched the Voice for the Voiceless podcast, honoring Santi's role in helping him find his voice. Today, Chris resides in Florida, using his experiences of resilience and loss to inspire others, amplify unheard voices, and promote mental health awareness. Everybody, please welcome Chris to the podcast. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Belisha. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. So I first wanted to talk to you about how I even met you. You're the founder of the Mental Health Movement Facebook group. And that's how I stumbled across your page was I was looking for some support for my mental health. My diagnosis is bipolar disorder. And it can be really challenging sometimes. And I think it's really important to have that community support as we navigate really tough diagnoses like that. So I found your page and I absolutely love this community you built. Everyone is just so supportive of one another. And I wanted to start by asking you, how did you even start this page? Like, what was your motivation behind it?
So, funny enough, today is actually the 6 year anniversary of the page.
That's amazing. Wow, congratulations.
I intentionally mentioned this date for this podcast for that because I
Yes.
feel you being there for 6 years and it being a 6 year anniversary, I thought it was very fitting.
Yes.
Um, so basically, it had started off of I don't want to say in retaliation to being filtered out of a group. So basically, I was part of this group called Suicide Prevention Rocks,
Hmm.
and I was just would scroll every day and just see people interacting, and they would post their rocks and everything. I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is a good group. It's not exactly peer support, but it's a good group of positive people. So I decided to make a post about almost being a statistic after one of my attempts, and
Hmm.
it got a lot of likes. It got like 700 likes in like 24 hours. So I'm like, okay, I might have something here. So I would post another one. Same thing, like get a lot of attention. They eventually reached out to me and asked me if I would like to write for their blog called the Joshua York Foundation, which was a great opportunity because I'm like, oh yes, please, I would love to be able to contribute any way I could.
Yeah.
So I posted one article. It posted fairly quick, like maybe about a week after I posted it. And then my second post, it took me, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it took me 5 hours to write it.
Hmm.
And they never published it. Like it would sit there. A month would go by. I'm like, hey, like what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
is there something that you need to reword? Like, is it triggering? Like, what's going on?
Right.
So I kind of took it as they were trying to filter me out of their group and
Hmm.
stop steering attention away from what they're doing, which I understand because they have their support and they have their followers and whatnot. It's their page. They can feel and want whatever they want for their page. So I created my own page. And some of the people that I started interacting with, um, I had reached out to them and I said, "Hey, I'm making this mental health group. The suicide prevention rocks just wasn't something that was a positive in my life. And, I was just kind of like at this weird tension with the admins of that page. And I said, would you like to join? Um, yeah, I would love to be part of it. Cool. So I created a page, and one of the admins of the Suicide Prevention Rocks page reached out to me and said, "Oh, are you poaching our followers? Poaching your followers? Aren't we
Poaching.
doing the same thing?
Right,
Where
right.
I'm not in it for monetizing, like
No.
just trying to create another peer support group."
Yeah.
And they basically kicked me out of the group for that.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a little outrageous. It's almost as if they're like seeing you as a competitor, which I
Yeah,
think is a
which is really
very
weird.
weird way of seeing it because we're all here for the community support, We're trying to push the same mission statement, which is supporting one another through mental
Right.
health challenges. So it's kind of weird that they would kick you out just because you decided to start your own thing, which it aligns with, the mission of service. Weird. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. But, you created this group and it's amazing. How many followers do you have on this group? There's a lot.
As of today, I think it's 1941.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how long did it take for you to grow to this amount?
Oh, I'd probably say uh, probably the exact 6 years it took us to get there because it was all organically.
Yeah.
There were people in the past who were, admins or moderators on our page, and go, why don't you pay for marketing? You can get more people in there. I'm like, because it doesn't feel genuine if you do stuff like that.
Right. Right. Yeah,
And
it
we've
mhm. Mhm.
and we've had people that have come in there who weren't genuine or weren't for the mental health at all, and they're like, "Oh, why can't we talk about politics in here? That's part of the mental
Mm.
health." I'm like, "That's where I draw the line. I don't
Yeah.
want any of that stuff in here."
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, amazing. So, tell me about your mental health journey.
Oh man,
Let's
so
start from the beginning.
so this probably starts back to when I was about 4 years old, and what's crazy is I can remember a lot of the things that happened to me when I was 4 years old. Starting with my mom being unfaithful to my dad. I distinctly remember showing my dad where this guy lives that my mom was staying with because she took me and my little brother to that guy's house to stay there. And it happened to be somebody he worked with.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
um, so then that kind of dragged to when my sister was born when we were about 8 years old. When I was about 8 years old, they got divorced. 8 years old, you're just kind of at that age where you feel like it's your fault, even though obviously it's not. And you didn't really understand what was going on. And neither one of my parents take care of themselves mentally. So that made that even worse to not really understand what was going on. Oh, why is mom staying here? Why can't we all just have dinner together? Why are we splitting dates? Um, so the better part of my childhood was moving around a lot, my mom being in a lot of relationships. Um, Going into about middle school, I went to two different middle schools in seventh grade, and that was due to my mom being in various relationships and moving around. And that carried over to high school, which I'll get to the moving part on that in a second. But ninth grade is kind of where the mental health struggles started, showing up. It was really bad with self harming.
Mm.
Um, I used to wear this insane clown posse sweater every single day. It was a red sweater, and I did that for a reason so nobody could, see that there was cuts on my arm,
Mhm.
and that led to my first attempt in high school. 14 years old, just angry at the world and not really understanding why I feel the way that I feel, and somebody caught wind of it and had let the resource officer know, like, hey, this kid's gonna hurt himself. I'm really concerned, and got tackled to the ground before I could do anything.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't actually until recently that I really understood why I attempted, and it was because I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be heard. Now, when you hear that, it just kind of like that sounds a little weird. You're going to take your life to be seen. I felt invisible probably my whole ninth grade year. That's when my mom got really bad with abusing. She would break shit over my head if I did something wrong. I remember leaving her house and walk down the road just to get away from her because she would just be emotionally just damaging to me. And she called the cops on me and they brought me back to the house. When the police officer pulled up the driveway, I'll never forget what she did to me. She put both her hands on my shoulders and threw me up against the doorknob. And she started kicking me when I fell on the floor. When I got to my feet, um, I had a white shirt that had blue flames on it. I'll never forget the shirt because I wore it for my senior trip. It was covered in blood. And she's like, hey, we have company coming over. Get yourself cleaned up. As if nothing just happened. Um, so that led to my attempt. It was just I felt invisible. I felt like I wasn't worth anything, and the I chose the school to attempt because what better way? Not saying better like I'm encouraging people to do this. I'm sorry if it comes off that way. What better way to be seen than in front of hundreds of kids you go to school with?
Yeah.
And I almost did it. It was seconds away from that attempt being successful. Um, then I was introduced to my first version of therapy. I got into an outpatient therapy center after that attempt, and they paired me with a therapist who specialized in gambling addiction. Now,
Mm.
this is 2006, so mental health resources were not what they are now, and I couldn't tell you one important lesson that I got out of any of those sessions with that person.
Yeah.
So, 14, kind of dragging on to my adult years, I attempted to go to college right after high school. Well, hold on. Let me back up. Sorry. 10th grade, um, I went to three different high schools in 1 year, all within 10-month span.
Wow.
Um, so making friends was not very easy in high school.
Yeah,
I
of
couldn't
course.
keep friends, and the friends that I did keep around didn't last very long because I was moving.
Yeah.
um, so going to senior year, I graduated from a high school that I've been to longer than the other two, thankfully. And I just remember trying to go to college. It was one of those early start programs. So it was like right after college, you would go right after high school. And my first year, it went okay. Second year went okay. And then my mom decided she wanted to move to New Jersey to get away from all the havoc and BS that she caused down here. Um, and basically, I was left homeless. I didn't have anywhere to live. And I had to choose either to go live with a friend and his newly wedded wife, which, that was a really bad idea now that I think about it, or attempt to go to college with nowhere to live.
Mhm.
So I failed out of college because I didn't have anywhere to live and I had to choose to work to pay for rent in a place I couldn't afford. Um, that created a lot of tension between me and my best friend at the time because he was already forced to marry the woman that he was with because her parents didn't want them living together if they weren't married. Which I respect traditional parents like that, but
Sure.
it was a bad idea in hindsight. Um, and our friendship just completely fell apart after that. So I was working at Publix, which is a grocery store chain down here, and I was numb for a very long time. Just not dealing with my problems, not taking care of my health or anything like that. And I was in an environment living with my dad after I left my best friend's house, and was in an environment where a parent showed me that he doesn't do doctor visits, he doesn't do dentist visits, he doesn't do anything to take care of himself at all or talk about his problems. So I internalized a lot of stuff. I didn't talk about anything. When I would talk about it, it would be with my manager at work. When my grandma was in the hospital and almost died, that was very traumatic, and I couldn't talk to my dad about it because we don't talk about things as a man. And he never really taught me how a man is supposed to act. And, it's not manly to talk about your feelings. It's not manly to cry or anything like that. So it was a very strange environment for a really long time. Um, about 6 years into working for Publix, I decided I'm like, just tore my shoulder after trying to go to wrestling school. I need somewhere to go. I need something to do. Like this life just isn't it. Like paying bills and being miserable all the time doesn't have to be it. So my mom decided to reach out and she's like, hey, you can stay up here for the 6 weeks you need to rehab your shoulder or rest your shoulder because I couldn't do anything until the 6 weeks being in that really big sling. And I'll take care of you. I'm like, all right, cool. Went up there for 6 weeks and everything seems so great to be living with mom again. She's changed because she's in a new relationship. And we had the conversation about me moving up there. I'm like, I don't know, mom. We kind of have a rocky past, and I'm not really sure I'm ready to relive that. Oh, everything's different. If you move up here, you won't have to pay rent. You save your money, and you'll be taken care of. Okay, I'll think about it. A couple weeks go by, I rehab my shoulder, and while I was in that sling before I decided to go to my mom's in Jersey, the first night I came back from therapy, I'm all perked up. I really big sling where I can't move my arm, and my brother and dad wouldn't help me with the laundry. I'm like, I have one arm. Like, can you guys help me like load this in the washer? Like, I can't do anything for myself. This sucks. And neither one of them would help me. So that's why I went up to Jersey. Um, so after I did the physical rehab and my shoulder got healthier, I made the decision to leave. To move to New Jersey and hope for better opportunities. Little did I know that as soon as I got up there, my mom had the leverage on her fiance at the time to make his life a living hell because I moved up there. And he ended up getting a house because I moved up there, and I didn't tell him to buy a house or anything, but my mom is a very good con artist. We'll all move in a house, we'll be a happy family, and this he borrowed a lot of money that he didn't have to pay back, and he bought a house that ended up being one of the biggest regrets he had. And a couple months goes by, and then my mom starts asking me for rent, which I'm an adult. I don't care if I got to pay rent. That's not a big deal. But it's the way that she went about it was the problem. It was like $500 for rent, which, that was 2017. So, I mean, that's not a lot back then. And then half of all the other bills, too. Mind you, there's 4 of us in that house, all of which are adults. So they were paying what they were paying. My sister wasn't paying anything, and I was paying half of the gas bill, the electric, cable, so on and so forth. I wasn't making that much money. So I'm like, okay, so this is how it's going to be up here, whatever. I'll pay my bills and save what I can when I can. And I worked at this warehouse job that that her fiance had worked with. He got me a job with him, and it was like a plastic factory. And it was a very physically laboring job. It was not fun. It was overnight, so it was like 10 p.m. to 7 at night. So getting used to that was really rough. Um, then the arguing started in the house, and that started getting really bad. And I remember as clear as day, I can remember this happening. Had a really rough night at work. When I came home and I basically made the decision. I didn't put in my 2 weeks. I just didn't go back. It was horrible. And Chris is like, just go back there. Ironically enough, his name is Chris too. So hearing Chris, Christina, and Chris every single day it drove me nuts. Anyway, wanted to add a little funny in there. So he's like, just go back, give it another chance. It was just a bad night. It's like, okay, you're right. It was another bad night. It's fine. I go back the next night, and it was even worse than the night before somehow. So I'm like, all right, I'm fed up. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And I left again without notice. I just left. And, Chris was trying to get me my job back there. And I said, I'm going to tell him I'm going to go back to the job, and I'm not going to do it. This is my second attempt, 27 years old. Wrote on Facebook, it was kind of a suicide note. I deleted it almost within like 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't want that kind of attention coming to me. Like, it was a cry for help, but then I came to almost immediately like, all right, I got to take it off Facebook. Like, I'm not trying to get that kind of attention towards me.
Yeah.
And my brother, before he passed away, of course, he gave me a call and he's like, hey, man, I just want you to know I saw what you posted. I saw that you deleted it just as quick as you posted it. And something called out to me to reach out to you and let you know that I care about you. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I don't want you to do anything you're going to regret. And I'm here if you need anything. That's all I ever wanted. That's
Yeah.
all I ever wanted was just somebody saying they actually gave a shit, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and ironically enough, I got a phone call right after that as well. It was my now tattoo artist who also reached out, and she took a screenshot of it, and she's like, I want you to know that you're seen, and basically said the same thing that Santi said, and that she was there for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna find another job. Everything's gonna look up, everything's gonna get better, whatever. And there was a night, and I don't remember how the argument happened. I was downstairs playing my video games, keeping to myself like I usually do. My mom comes downstairs just out of nowhere, just starts screaming about something. She gets in my face 3 straight hours, screaming in my face while I said nothing. Not a F you, not a get away from me, nothing. I didn't say 2 words. Screaming in my face.
Wow.
And I had a friend on the microphone and I forgot to mute my mic. And when my mom went upstairs, um, I didn't realize that my microphone was still on. I thought I shut it off. And I said, yeah, sorry about that. Just like pretending like it didn't happen. Like, I thought I had it on mute. And she's like, I am so sorry you have to put up like that. That was bad even for me to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a lot of people don't realize about my mom is she's very good at putting on a mask for people. She's very good at like manipulating the truth by just putting on that mask of what's actual reality. I had to tell one of my friends, "Oh, your mom seems such a sweetheart. She would never do anything. Go live with her. Everything's gonna be fine." You don't know my mom. I've gone to dinner with you guys. She's really nice. I'm like, just give it time.
Yeah.
Um, and I had at one point 3 jobs. I was working at FedEx, PetSmart, and this Store Labs place, which dealt with like fiber optic stuff. And this is all events that led to me leaving Jersey. So FedEx was like 3 in the morning, and some days I would go from there to PetSmart, and then from PetSmart to Thor Labs. It was exhausting,
I can't
and
even imagine how you did that.
it was horrible. Um, Especially when it was cold, when it was like 20 degrees and you're working at FedEx and those
Yeah.
trailers was miserable. There was an incident at FedEx where I was helping unload one of the trailers, and I think we grabbed the box the wrong way because the way you're supposed to unload a trailer is you go top to bottom. You don't go bottom to top because that just things fall over.
Yeah.
40-pound Cisco box falls and whacks me in the back of the head. And I was seeing stars for like a solid 15 minutes. Like I could not function. I told my supervisor, I'm like, hey man, I gotta go home. My head is killing me. Like I feel like I have a concussion. The manager says to me, dead ass serious face, oh, why don't you ask your girlfriend or your wife or your mom to massage it for you? You'll be okay.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, what?
Yeah, what
Like,
the heck?
who says that in a professional environment?
Oh my God.
And I went to Thor Labs against my better judgment. I went to Thor Labs, driving I shouldn't have been doing for number one. Number two, I definitely shouldn't have gone to my second job. Because when I started working, then I started seeing black. Like my vision would just be really bad, and my brain felt like it was scrambled eggs. And I told my manager, I'm like, hey man, like I think I need to go to the emergency room. Like, I don't feel good. I can't function. Like, I feel like I'm stunned right now. I can't move. I can't do anything. It's like, do you need someone to drive you there? I'm like, I should be okay. It's like 5 minutes away. So I went to the emergency room, and they had me sitting in there for like an hour. And the nurse comes out and she checks, and she's like, "What are you in here for?" And I said, "I think I have a mild concussion. I'm not sure. I got hit in the back of the head with a box that was like 40 pounds." And she screamed at her doctors, "Why is a head trauma patient out here and nobody's taking care of him?" Because, with a concussion, you can cause permanent damage if it's not taken care of.
Yeah.
So we got in there. I think I was out of work for like 3 days, just being in a black room. Um, and my mom ended up sending a letter to FedEx saying, "Yeah, well, I'm not coming back here because, just that situation was terrible." Um, so I stayed with Thor Labs full time after I wasn't a temp anymore. It was a full time job and things were okay for a little while. And I remember another argument happening with my mom, Chris, my sister Kayla, and myself. The biggest problem with being the oldest out of three kids is your mom uses you as the discipline figure. Oh, your sister's not listening. She's talking to me a certain way. And then your siblings start resenting you.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister was getting ready to swing at my mom. Like, regardless of what my mom did to me in the past, I would never swing at my parents just because it's your parents. And I remember getting in my sister's face and I just said, "What is wrong with you? Like, you're an adult and you're acting like a child." Like, and this is my mom in my brain talking to my sister, like not even realizing it. And that turned into Chris getting really mad at the situation. And I don't want to say run away because it was 27. You're not running away. I left the house and started walking into the city. My mom called the cops on me because I didn't answer her phone calls and I just disappeared. And started going to therapy. Um, since I had a full time job and had health insurance and stuff. And my first two sessions with my therapist at the time were me just crying and just not talking. Like, I had no coherent sentences, just straight crying. This is over 27 years of keeping in crying, like not crying about my grandpa passing away, not crying about my parents getting divorced. Um, not crying because I had attempted like nothing. And what that therapist was able to do, she did a good job at cleaning up a lot of that darkness out of my head, like the suicidal thoughts, the wanting to do really bad things to myself and, just disappear just in general. And I remember about 6 months into our session, it just kind of came into clarity of everything that was going on. And I said, I don't think Jersey's right for me. I think I need to leave here, get away from my mom because we can't be in the same state with each other. We can't live together. Like, it's just that bad between us because she doesn't like being held accountable or she doesn't like people calling out her out on her shit. And when I told my mom that, you want to talk about somebody who treated me like shit until I left. My sister's graduation was coming up, and I said after my sister's graduation, I'm going to leave because I'm going to be there for her. Be that big brother that's support.
Sorry, Chris, I think I lost you for a second.
Oh, can you hear
Oh, I
me?
can hear you. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay,
So, sister's graduation.
yeah. So sister's graduation was coming up, and told her I'm going to be here for your graduation, but I got to leave Jersey. Like, I can't be here anymore. Um, so every day until then, my mom treated me like utter shit. Like, it just every single day talking down to me, saying I wasn't gonna be shit, saying that she hopes that my brother does more successful things than me. Just anything that you could possibly say to a son, she said to me in like every worst way possible. My friend Caleb flew up. I don't remember if he flew up or drove up. Pretty sure he flew up from Florida to help me move because I was
Mhm.
just going to drive to Florida. And we all went out to breakfast. He was there for my sister's graduation, and she starts screaming at me when we're leaving the parking lot. I'm not saying a word. Like, I'm just sitting here in silence. So she starts screaming at me. And I look over at Caleb, my friend Caleb, and I just, like, my eyes get wide. I'm like, did I say something? Like, I don't remember peeping a word. And my sister surprisingly had my back, and Caleb had my back and said, that was Cameron. Like, Cameron said something. Christopher didn't say anything. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I must have misheard. And I'm like, Mom, you do that shit all the time. Like, I know you have hearing problems, but it's like your instinct is to go after me for whatever reason.
Right, right.
And when I left, I think we were in Virginia when she called me. Um, and she just started going off on me, saying nasty things to me about me leaving and everything. And to this day, I will never forget her doing this. She posted on Facebook, my son is leaving today, putting me and Chris in a financial situation. Not that I'm going because I need to take care of myself, but I'm putting my mom, who's 40 something years old, in a financially bad place. Like, if me coming up there was to financially put you in a better place, I think you should look in the mirror and realize that maybe I'm not the problem,
Yeah.
you know? So I came
Wow.
back to Florida, and I don't want to say a new season of problems happened, but when I came back down to Florida, I struggled finding work at first. I had an air conditioning job for like a couple months, and then I finally went to the job that I have now. Tried therapy again, and the therapist that I got, not the one that I'm currently with, but just before her, um, basically 2 sessions of not writing anything down, not talking me down from having my first panic attack. And she asked me if I would take antidepressants. I'm like, I don't want antidepressants. Like, I just want somebody to talk me down, and I don't want to feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she says, would you take blood pressure medicine? I'm like, well, I mean, if it calls for it, sure. It's for your health. Well, antidepressants are for your health too, like, just really nastily.
Huh. Wow.
After the second session that we had, she basically said that she can't take me anymore as a patient. She gave me a website to go to and just like kick me to the curb.
My gosh.
Um, so
That's horrible.
I almost gave up on therapy.
Yeah.
It was really hard with everything that was going on at home to deal with life without therapy. And 2020 came along. Um, I didn't start therapy again until like middle of 2020. Basically, the world shut down. We were all dealing with the pandemic and all the stuff that came with that. Um, One of my really good friends, Amy, had passed away suddenly to liver failure. Um,
I'm so
she was on
sorry.
the, thank you.
Yeah.
She was on the hospital bed, getting prepped for her surgery, and then she just suddenly passed away. That was such a really hard loss for me, because this was in a time when we couldn't visit our loved ones in the hospital, even
Yeah.
after they passed away. We couldn't have a proper funeral with her because, again, the pandemic was really weird about that stuff. And I remember Nami coming to my job, um, and they were talking about the importance of mental health, the importance of therapy. And I asked the rep. I waited until everybody was clearing the room to ask the rep. I said, "Hey, man, like, I had a really bad experience with therapy before, and I had success in the past with therapy, but this most recent one just really put me in a bad place mentally." And I said, "What do I do? I don't want to go through 5, 6 different therapists and just never be able to find one." He's like, "Ask questions." And I'm like, "What do you mean ask questions? Like, I can ask a therapist questions?" Like, because again, therapy wasn't ever something we talked about in the house. Therapy had that weird stigma while we were growing up. It's
Yeah.
just go to therapy, then you're crazy and you take
Right.
medicine and all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Um, so I got my new health insurance from work and went on this website called Psychology Today to look for a new therapist. And I found Jess, my current therapist that I have now. On the same day that I was supposed to meet with her, another close friend passes away on the freaking day I started. And I just 2020 was so weird for
Yeah.
everybody, but it doesn't even feel like it was real. Like I go back and look at how bad that year was, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna single myself out and say I had it worse than anybody else, but
It was brutal.
it was. And when Amy passed away, Santi, my brother, the one who saved my life, he was helping me grieve. He was helping me celebrate her. Lo and behold, he was preparing me to grieve for him. And car took away his life.
Oh my
And
God.
every single day, I wish more than anything I could have seen him more. I could have more conversations. And I remember when I got the phone call, and friends like, Santi's dead. What do you mean he's dead? Like, stop playing with me. Like, this is obviously a prank. You guys are fucking with me. Sorry for my language. And he's like, no, no, I'm being serious. Santi was just killed in a car accident. I said, what do you mean? The most genuine, loving, God feared man I've ever met in my entire life just gets taken away like that? What do you mean he's gone? And the way that he went is such a Santi way to go. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So there's a intersection by my house where there's apartment complexes and there's a Taco Bell right across the street from it. And there's a U-turn. This man was going to U-turn and his car comes flying and hops the median. This man turns the car so much to where he took the full impact and protected his fiance.
Oh my God.
When I tell you that
Wow.
this man, I've never met anybody in my entire life like him. And for him to go the way that he did, the funeral was one of the roughest days of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, the funeral's rough for everybody, but seeing him in an open casket, I think that was my first
Yeah.
open casket.
Yeah, those
I was
are
waiting for I was
rough.
waiting for him to pop up and say, "Hey, I'm fine, guys."
Yeah.
And every day I wish I could have one last conversation. And I want to show you a picture of him. I keep him close
Please.
to me.
Yeah.
It's right there in the blue.
He's in the blue.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you can,
Wow.
when you look at him, you just feel
His positive energy.
yeah.
He's a goofball, right? Just that
Yeah.
picture.
I
Oh
remember
man.
if I could share this memory with you, I have him. It's probably one of my favorite memories of
Yeah,
all time.
please.
Myself, my friend Sage, Javier, and Santi were all on his back porch playing dominoes like we always do, just hanging out. And he had his speaker was playing music, and it's playing like some really soft music. And I remember one of our friends just looks at Santi. He's like, "Bro, why are you playing some seductive music right now? Like, what's going on?" Oh my god, that
Yeah.
man was he was very very special to me.
Thank you
Um,
for sharing about him.
yeah,
And wow, just the way he passed, he died a hero.
yeah,
He died a
yeah.
hero.
He
Yeah.
was probably one of the most special human beings I've ever known, and I'm grateful every single day that my last time that I saw him physically gave him a hug and I told him I loved him.
Oh,
And it was a random encounter. It was at a Walmart with his fiance, and uh, I'm so grateful that I got to see him one last time.
yeah. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah,
And I'm
I
talking also
question it
about
too
you.
much. Yeah.
Also about you, Chris. Everything you told me, um, it was just you, life was not kind to you. And there's so much I want to ask because it's so grossly unfair. You know, you didn't even ask to be born, let alone to abusive parents. And this was not your fault. I want you to know that none of this was your fault, you know. But I love this quote by Robin Roberts. It's make your mess your message. So
Absolutely.
you used your pain and your trauma and your lived experiences to give back to this community that people going through similar challenges and give them the support that you wish you had, you know, when you were
Yeah.
struggling. And it's an amazing thing to witness, you know, and I think that's the best we can hope for, right? Is, you know, we don't ask for the adversity we're dealt, but if we can make the most out of these rotten situations, you know, that's how we rise, I feel like. Uh,
Absolutely. I think the greatest thing is, being that person for everybody that you wish you had. It's
yeah.
I love that quote too, because it's so true, because all I ever wanted growing up was to be seen, to all my struggles and everything that I was going through. I just wanted to be heard and not told that I was imagining things, and not told that, oh, you don't remember that, right? That's not what happened. I remember my grandpa said to me, I think like 2 years ago, we were having a conversation about my parents, and he just looks at me in the face. He's like, your parents ignored you. I always thought that I was crazy for thinking that, and for hearing somebody like my grandpa say something like that to me was all the validation I ever needed,
Yeah.
because I always felt like I was just there existing, and even more so now. It's I don't really have a relationship with either of my parents. I talk to them, but I can't relate to them in
Yeah.
any sense, and neither one of them really ask about how I'm doing or how therapy's going or anything like that. So it's just kind of I exist in this family to not exist,
Mhm.
and while that's a harsh reality, I made my own family. I
Exactly, your chosen
Yeah,
family. Yeah.
right,
Yeah. I mean, you would expect that the people who give you life, your blood relatives, your parents, are the ones who should love you unconditionally, right? That's like the baseline expectation. But unfortunately, that is not a guarantee.
right.
And as an example, like your own mother, you know, my gosh, she sounds awful. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be offensive,
No,
but
not offensive at all.
I actually had a question about why do you think parents abuse their children? Do you think
I
it's
think
like
it's
trauma, they were traumatized and they're passing it on and kind of thing?
so from my understanding, the reason my dad is the way that he's doing, and I know you asked about my mom, but
Yeah.
just to kind of cross the board answer, my mom is the way that she is because she was abused by her mom,
Okay.
and her father and her mom had a very dangerous slash toxic relationship with each other too. Um, and she just never broke that cycle or even attempted to. Um, she found a way to be like her father in terms of who can I use, how much can I use them for, what can I get out of them. My mom used my father for kids, and I don't want that to come off a certain way, but I always felt like my mom, her intentions were always to have a daughter, because when my sister was born, everything started changing. She left my dad immediately. She only wanted custody of my sister
Huh.
because she knew she couldn't control my brother and I anymore. And everything going into adults, my sister finally realized after a really long time of the kind of person my mom is. Um, my mom's very manipulative, and she made up a lot of stories about my dad that weren't true. And my sister had a lot of venom towards my dad for lies. And with my dad, from my understanding, his mom and dad both never talked about anything. It was a very old fashioned
Yeah.
household. If somebody passed away, it was just never talked about again. It
Right.
was internalize. Um, Growing up now, or being an adult now and having conversations with my dad, I realize that he's just not emotionally available for anything. It's I think recently, maybe within the last 6 months, we've had maybe one conversation that actually meant something. Otherwise, it's, hey, what's grandma's Wi-Fi, or hey, have you heard from Cameron or Kayla? It's not, how are you doing? It's none of that.
Right. Right.
And I told my grandma this the other day. I said, every time we talk, and I could show you the history of our phone calls, they don't go longer than 5 or 6 minutes because
Mm.
he's usually asking about nonsensical things.
Mm.
And we don't have that relationship with each other. And my brother had that with my dad growing up, and my sister had her relationship with her mom. I was just there. you
Oh,
know um
I
I
could only
remember.
imagine how isolating that must have felt.
Yeah, yeah. And when I was 8 years old, when my parents got divorced, my teacher at the time, who I'm really good friends with to this day,
Uh-huh.
she taught me how to tie my shoes.
Oh,
I
wow.
will never forget that, because when my parents first got divorced, she was one of the only ones to check on me to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
And the impact that she had on my life, I can never forget.
Yeah. In my mental health peer support training, they say that um, a protective factor against mental health conditions in children is if they have at least one supportive adult figure in their life.
Yeah,
Just one who, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your parents. It sounds like that teacher who taught you to tie your shoes was that kind of figure for you.
yeah,
And that's, I mean, that's wonderful. And yeah, I'm so sorry about your parents. And I don't know if how much you want to talk about this because I just I'm curious about your mother and whether she has a diagnosis of anything. I mean, I'm not a therapist or a clinician. I can't diagnose based on what you've told me, but it just sounds like this is not normal behavior. It could be a trauma response. It could be, but I don't think like well-adjusted people or I don't know, like normal people act like this. So,
right.
does she, I mean, borderline or like personality
So
disorder or
I know for a fact she was diagnosed with really bad anxiety, and she was
okay.
on Xanax for over 20 years.
Mm.
Um, Over the span of time, I think within the last maybe 5 years, you can see the Xanax taking its toll on her physical being.
Uh,
And I mentioned this to my brother. I said, does she look like not herself growing up? Like, obviously, we aged, it's an aging thing, but I think the Xanax just kind of sped up that process.
right.
And she stopped taking Xanax, I think, within the last 2 years. And she said that she hasn't had a panic attack since then.
Oh,
I said, because
good.
Xanax is not something that you should be taking for over 20 freaking years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
No.
And it would get to a point where if she didn't take it, she would have a full blown anxiety attack, like really bad. Um,
Yeah.
she's also very bipolar, diagnosed bipolar.
She is diagnosed bipolar.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if she's ever been diagnosed with depression. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But also factor in that she did drugs too when I grew up.
Uh,
Um,
mm,
and I remember this like it happened yesterday. I think I was 16, I want to say. She was doing crack, and you know, she lost all that weight, like just any weight that she has. She looked like a skeleton. And she told us that she was dying of bone cancer. Come to find out, she was on drugs. Um, she ended up having to go to NA, and she told all of us that she was going to those meetings for marijuana. Which I can understand if you're really bad and you smoke every second of the day, but I wouldn't see somebody sending somebody to Narcotics Anonymous unless it's court ordered or you have an actual really bad problem with weed.
Yeah.
A couple years later, I found out that she was doing crack with her boyfriend, or well, I don't even know what the hell he was at the time. The guy that she left my dad for,
Mm.
and he was really bad with drugs. He had a bad reputation with cops as well. So a lot of the moving around was because of him. Um, he was a registered offender, but it wasn't for like with anything with kids. It was he was 18, she was 17, and just unfortunate system type technicalities there.
Yeah.
Um, but cops were always involved in my life, and I remember a cop saying to me, um, "You're the most mature person in the house, and you're still a kid."
Yeah.
That's not a compliment, like
It's
it's
a sobering fact. It's
yeah,
you are parenting your parents, essentially.
right.
And that's not your job as a kid. That shouldn't be any kid's job. My gosh. Okay, Chris, how are you doing today?
So I wanted to mention this too. A couple weeks ago, I
Yeah.
had found out that a friend of mine had taken his life.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so sorry.
I
Ah,
personally haven't cried this much since Santi passed away,
yeah.
and I just had my therapy session this past Thursday. Started off the session. I said, "Hey, I want to read the post to you that I made for him." And when I started reading it, I was looking at his picture. I'm like, I got to scroll down. I can't look at his face and read this,
Yeah.
and I broke down anyway.
Yeah.
Um, you know, being in this community and doing what you and I do and having the conversations that we have, it's it's so hard when you have somebody so close to you or who was so close to you at some point in your life take your life when you were so strong on suicide prevention, you
Yeah.
know. And this reality really punched me in the face last Monday. I was having a conversation with a friend, and these words have been really heavy on my heart. You can't save everyone,
It's
and
true.
it's blunt, it's hurtful, but it's so true in the most hurtful way,
Yeah.
but it's reality. And I think when we have conversations like this, I feel that not walking around on eggshells or not trying to trigger somebody is something that we stick to the reality part of this conversation because it is true. You can't
Yeah.
save everyone. You can't prevent every incident from happening. Because if we could, be a whole hell of a lot of lives I'd still be around today. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm okay now that I had that therapy session. Um, I get in my head about it sometimes because I wish I could have had more conversations with him and
Yeah.
prevented it. But all in all, I would say I'm doing a lot better than I was last week.
Yeah. Chris, your story, I'm so sorry to hear about your friend.
Thank you.
Losing a friend to suicide is one of the most brutal things. Losing a friend or a loved one in general is so hard, but to suicide, there's just something about that that's like, oh, was I not enough for them to want to
Yeah,
stay here? Or could I have done something different to,
right.
so that they would still be here? Maybe if I had said the right thing or been more supportive. I lost a friend to suicide in 2021. Chelsea Santos, she and I went to college together, and um, we took a selfie together on graduation day. We were sitting right next to each other, and we had the whole world ahead of us, and she was 24 when she ended her life. And it was interesting because I was at that point already diagnosed bipolar. I wasn't now, I was in the very early stages of recovery, so I wasn't managing it as nearly as well as I am now. And then she got diagnosed like after me. So she kind of was a little bit of, I was kind of her mentor and confidant, in those days when she was grappling with a new diagnosis, and I was trying to give her as much advice as I could, but I wasn't really managing well myself. So, and I don't know what kind of support she was getting at home or from providers, but it's just so like, yeah, the survivor's guilt just eats away at
Yeah,
me. I'm like, I could have done more. I feel like I really could have, but there's no excuse. But it's just like when you're so caught in your own shit and you're struggling to stay afloat, it's very hard to help someone else. I wish I had the tools and the skills and the education I do now back in 2021 when she
yeah,
was struggling. And when you told me the story of your close friend who before he died, the last time you saw him, you were able to say I love you and give him a hug. I wish I had done that with Chelsea. I wish I
yeah,
could have, but I just remember the last time I saw her, we were at the Van Gogh exhibit in SF, and I had to rush out early because I had to go to lunch with my family, and I just left her alone in there, sitting there, watching these montages of Vincent van Gogh's, you know, paintings, and I just can't help but wonder, Van Gogh had bipolar. So I don't know if she was in her head kind of romanticizing, like, oh, and Van Gogh took his life, right? So I was like, definitely should have debriefed after that.
yeah,
It could have been triggering. And
right.
and then, like, about a week before she ended her life, she texted me and she seemed really excited. And she was like, oh, do you want to go to a rave with me? And I'd never gone to a rave. She'd never gone to a rave. I was like, yeah, let's do it, girl. So we went to book the tickets. So that's why I thought everything was fine. And then I was sitting in my therapist's office in the waiting room when I found out. And
Oh, man.
yeah. And the way I found out, I was scrolling through Instagram and I was friends with her sister on Instagram. I clicked on her sister's story and it's just like pictures of Chelsea. And then the last story, it was a GoFundMe page for the funeral. And I was
Jesus.
like, what the fuck? Like, wait, is this real? This can't be real. I was literally just talking to Chelsea last week. And it was just, to this day, I'm surprised I'm not like crying right now. Because like I usually when I talk about her, I start getting teary-eyed. It's like and the worst thing is like when I came home from that therapy appointment and I told my parents, they were sitting on the couch watching TV. I was like, guys, Chelsea just ended her life. And they were obviously shocked. But my mom was like, Belisha, just don't think about it. I'm like, what? Like, who
Yeah, hold on.
says that?
Let me hit that switch.
She's like, just don't think about it. And
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's not helpful.
right.
And so, just more broadly, like, how do we talk about mental health? Like, in a way that conveys compassion and empathy. Let's say someone who was not educated in mental health may not have lived experience, or they don't know how to talk about it. How can
Yeah.
we best support our loved ones who are going through mental health challenges in a way that even if we ourselves don't have a mental health condition, like we can still show them support and show them that
Hmm.
we care for them. Like, what's your take on that?
So before I answer that, I just want to say
Hmm.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's it's not easy, especially when it's somebody that's as close to you as Chelsea was to you.
Yeah.
So my condolences to you, and I hope more than anything that she sees you for what you're doing because she would be proud of you. Um,
Thank
for the
you.
short while that you and I have known each other, I can tell that you have such a bright spirit and you shed such a bright light in what you do. So I just want to reinforce the fact that you're a wonderful human being and
Thank you.
I'm
You are
grateful for you.
too. I'm grateful for you, Chris. And Thank you so much for your words. And everything I'm doing right now, like with advocacy work, like with this podcast, with all the free community events, wellness events I host, it's all in her honor,
Yeah.
because before I lost Chelsea, I was, yeah, I was passionate about mental health, but not in such a way as I am now. Now
Yeah.
I have a real mission to make her death mean something.
Yeah.
I don't want her to die as a statistic.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah.
to answer your question,
Hmm.
so I try to tell this to everybody. The number one most important thing is to not offer advice to people that are struggling with mental
Mm.
health, because when you do, it's almost like you're listening to respond and not listening to understand. And at the end of the day, somebody who's struggling mentally or emotionally, they just want a shoulder. They just want an ear. They just want you to listen to see them, to reaffirm what they're doing. Um, if you are listening and you are, hearing them just say things that aren't true, reinforce like, hey, what you're feeling is valid, but you are not these things that your brain is telling you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your anxiety. You are not your depression. Those diagnoses don't have to define you.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And I feel like we're in this really weird culture that self diagnoses each other and takes on that personality of that mental health disorder. I'm not saying those things don't exist in some of those people. There are so many people who make their personality off of a diagnosis that isn't professionally given.
Mm.
So I would just say be careful about self diagnosing, and make sure that if somebody is sharing their heart with you, somebody's willing to be vulnerable to you, don't give unsolicited advice unless they're asking you, like, hey, what should I do about this?
Yeah.
Don't offer unsolicited advice.
Yeah. That's really true. Because sometimes people, you know how we often jump to problem solving mode, right? And we skip over the whole empathy. Some people just want to be listened to and they want someone to listen to them. They want a safe space to be able to vent whatever difficult emotions they may be feeling, and for someone to listen without judgment, and um not necessarily for someone to solve their problem, because like
Mm-hmm.
who are we to do that?
Right.
We don't know enough. And even therapists are advised against giving direct advice. That's not really a therapist's job either. In my experience of therapy, I think the best therapists I've been with open the pathway for me to find the answers myself. They facilitate, they guide, they offer new perspectives, but ultimately it's self-discovery, it's
Yeah.
giving the client the agency and the choice to take charge of their own healing journey. I'm not gonna just follow orders from a therapist.
Yeah.
I think that's what, yeah. And so in your experience of the best therapist you've been with, what did they do right?
So the therapist that I'm with now, I've been with her for 5 years now.
Mm,
Um, and the greatest thing that she did, I'll tell you the greatest piece of advice I've ever gotten. And it's so simple
mm,
and it impacts me still to this day. Be gentle with yourself.
mm,
When I heard those words, at first I just like, that doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean be gentle with yourself? Like I'm not physically harming myself. She's like, no, no, no. Be gentle with yourself means give yourself grace. Give yourself a little bit of patience of the things that you're dealing with, because whatever we're dealing with, whether it's illness, our body takes time to heal, whether it's, emotional trauma, with the right set of tools, your body will heal. Being gentle with yourself means you're putting your needs and yourself first.
yeah.
And she also taught me what boundaries are. I had no idea what boundaries even were. I was never taught how to set a boundary between my mother and I, or my father, or my siblings if I ever needed that. And it's those boundaries have allowed me, and I'm going to use this analogy and it's going to sound corny, to look over the fence at the person that I have that boundary in between myself and them, and see what my mom is when that boundary is there. She doesn't like boundaries. My
Right.
dad doesn't put an effort to even, be a part of that boundary. So it's just like, if I'm not talking to him, I don't exist. But boundaries is something I feel that everybody can benefit for. Whether it's a boundary with your work, whether it's a boundary with your parents, whether it's a boundary with your relationship. It's something that for me allowed me to have my mom stay with me for a week, when I thought I was ready to, be around her again. And while it came with a lot of the things I expected to, come with, somehow she just made that visit that much more miserable. So it happens. Um, but I just feel like she showed me all the things that were possible. When I started the podcast, when I started the group and everything, and was able to share all of that with her. I love celebrating wins with her because she gets so excited. She brings so much light into things that I do, things that I take for granted within myself of progress.
Yeah.
And I feel when you have somebody reaffirm that you're doing things the right way, or you're approaching a situation that you're struggling with the right way. Like sometimes if I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm putting up a boundary between myself and them, or I'm just telling them that, I'm not here for whatever's going on, my therapist would be like, you handled that surprisingly really well. I'm like, I don't even remember writing that shit. Like, and I just feel she's helped me discover a lot of potential within myself in terms of standing up for myself, standing up for what I believe in, and quite frankly, just continuing these conversations when they're the hardest to have.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so grateful that you found a great therapist.
Me too.
That's really it's like if you haven't had good experiences with therapists, it could definitely turn you off to the whole
Yeah,
idea of therapy. And
it
I'm
was
glad
that
you
close.
persevered. Exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
persevered and because I think honestly, therapy, like my therapist told me that not everyone benefits from therapy,
100%.
and I want to, make space for those people who are skeptical or who maybe they just don't like to talk about, they don't like talk therapy. They're not the kind of person to talk about their feelings in that way. That is not to say they can't find other ways of healing, that are a better fit for them.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge champion of therapy. It's like shining a mirror to your inner landscape and your inner psyche that you can't see because you're too close to yourself and you have blind
Mm-hmm.
spots. And a
Right.
therapist points out your patterns and they're like, okay, and here, let's offer a clinical term for it if that makes you feel more, um, you know, feel better. Like, here is what is happening, you know? And I'm
And some people
grateful.
need that validation.
Some people need like an actual label. I have
Mm-hmm.
a whole thing about labels, diagnoses and labels. I think they can be helpful if you really do have something that needs to be treated. Then having the diagnosis opens the pathway for you to get on the right meds, get the right
Mm-hmm.
treatment, and that's a positive. Um, but oh my gosh, we covered so much, Chris. Like, honestly, I'd love to have you on a second time because I feel
Yeah.
like there's so much more to unpack. This interview was more of a general introduction to your story. Um, but I just want to end by saying, like, thank you for the work you do. It's very noble and you matter. You are seen, and we all appreciate you. All of the followers in your group. And you have a podcast too, the Mental Health Matters podcast. You also have
Yeah.
a podcast where you interview people with mental health challenges as well as professionals in the mental health field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing. And I love that the mission, the little tagline of your podcast, which is giving voice to the voiceless.
Yeah.
Giving voice to the voiceless. I think that's powerful. Tell me why you chose that. Uh,
So this the podcast came up with the name Voice for the Voiceless because it was actually a tribute to Santi. He helped me find my voice. He helped me find the courage to speak up of the things that I was going through, to speak out on the grief that I was facing, and to talk about the things I was struggling with. And I remember one specific conversation that we had, and it was I want to say 6 months or so before he passed away. He asked me what triggers were. He didn't know what triggers were. He's like,
Hmm.
I know the haha internet uses the word triggered and
Yeah.
make a meme about it. But he's like, what are triggers? And when I told him, he was just so grateful. He's like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. He's like, thank you, thank you. When he passed away, I kind of put two and two together, and I said that I am the voice that gives people who don't have that voice or the ability to speak anymore. I help people find their voice. All the voiceless people in our life are no longer with us. The podcast is for them.
Yeah.
And I've had some people on who have come out as, as gay or whatever on the podcast. I've had
Wow.
people talk about passings in their life that they didn't expect to even talk about. Um, it gives people the opportunity to not only hold that mirror in front of themselves while they're talking about what they're going through, but also it shines a light on a lot of the good work that they're doing. There's so many people in this community that I wish had a brighter spotlight on them, because they're not these $1 million nonprofit people that are, they're doing great. Those nonprofits are great. Don't get me wrong. But I feel there's so many people that do it in such a better way that aren't a big name, that don't
Yeah.
have a big following. Um, but yeah, that's the story behind Voice for the Voiceless. It was a tribute to Santi, and it was also a tribute to all of those who are no longer with us.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for being on today. And
Of
we will
course.
talk again. We will talk
Thank you
again
for
for
having me.
sure. All right. You take care.
Have a great night.
Bye. As we wrap up today's journey, a massive thank you for spending this time with us on the Well Anchored Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps other people find the show. We have new episodes dropping every Tuesday, so follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with new episodes and behind the scenes content. We appreciate you being here. Talk to you guys next week.